The label is the artist's business model. Case study by Valholla Records. Okay, so let's just go through it. With the growth of streaming, music labels need a new business model that doesn't rely on artists signing exclusively for an extended period. Most music labels focus on business models as seen below. So there's 4 different models. So the first one would be a traditional record contract. So a record label has a recording artist under contract exclusively for an extended period, and they owns master recordings for 7 to 20 years or in perpetuity. Right, so that's traditional record deal. 2, the record label has a recording artist under contract exclusively for an extended period and license the artist's master recordings for an extended period or limited period. So it could be 5 years, 7 years, however long, the licensing period lasts. Right, so a licensing deal. Right. Third, the record label provides distribution or license releases for the artist or label, and the artist maintains ownership of master recordings. This means that this is strictly like a label services distribution type of deal, right? So that's the third model. So let's add in the model we just heard from this new company. Let's fit that right in the middle of that, right? So let's just say that's fourth, and let's just say this is fifth. The record label produces music for an internal sound library of pre-cleared music meant for use for TV, film, commercials, and other forms of content. For example, UMG has a division that solely focuses on pre-cleared and a sound library. So they have a sound library that includes music that's not within the main artist. So Drake isn't in that catalog. Obviously, there's pre-cleared music that people could license for YouTube or whatever the case may be. Right? That's basically what every business model that major labels focuses on, or labels in general these days. Right? In this streaming era. Right? So this is the problem. So most of these business models relies on artists signing multi-year exclusive deals. As more and more artists seek to own their masters, music labels or record labels, however you want to call it, need an alternative business model that allows artists to maintain ownership of their music and allows labels to produce and release music that they control and market without the full participation of the performing act. That's key. Let me tell you why. Let's just say I'm an artist, right? I've been recording for 3 years. I sign a deal with a label. Things, I start to probably do my first tour, and I have a life emergency, and I kind of fall out of love with the grind of music, and I really don't want to record any music anymore. But let's just say I have a deal with a distribution company where I'm not obligated to provide a certain amount of records to this particular label, but they, so that means that whenever I get the music to them, that's when I get it. So a distribution company is beholden to that artist and the quantity of music that they release. Let me go deeper. So that means that if I have a distribution deal with an artist, that means that my structure is reliant on my business model and structure for that particular. If I'm just a distribution company, that model relies on not just one artist, right? But if I have a distribution company, I need hundreds of artists that are going to release consistently. I need them to, not only market their work and whatever the case may be, because some of these artists, get upstreamed where they get, marketing budgets, things of that nature, right? And obviously the distribution company sees the data, they know it, they do what they have to do to amplify that artist. But that distribution company is still beholden to the artist and their output. If they want to drop one song a year, that you just got to get one song a year. It's like it's on the artist, right? So let's hold that thought. Solution. The label is the artist's business model. The label chooses a creative director to oversee all releases for a particular imprint. When I was thinking about this model, again, this model isn't new. This is just putting a name on a model that could be adapted to a record label and scaled. When I was thinking about this model, I was thinking about this, and that's kind of why you see the person that you see here. The guy that you see here in front is a designer, and he runs a fashion house, right? So when you have a creative director, so he's a creative director for a fashion house, right? So let's just say if I'm the creative director, Pharrell, for example, perfect example. Pharrell's a perfect example. Pharrell is the creative director of Louis Vuitton, right? So Pharrell's job is to create designs, create, clothing for this fashion house, right? He's commissioned to do so. He's commissioned by the company to do so. I don't know what Pharrell's deal looks like, whatever the case may be, but that's really besides the point. But let's just say I could tell you that he does not own, unless he's getting like a royalty, whatever the case may be, unless he's getting shares or whatever the case may be. He doesn't, and a creative director wouldn't expect to own a fashion. He's not going to walk away from Louis Vuitton in the future and owns a large portion of Louis Vuitton like that. Like that's not how it works, right? So this model takes this, but change the clothes and put it into music, right? So change the clothes and put it into music. The label chooses a creative director. So this creative director will most likely be a producer who collaborates with a range of artists. So I'm going to use myself for example, right? I'm a producer. I'm a record producer, and myself, and I have a team of producers as well, and team of producers and musicians. If I have an idea for a record or whatever the case may be, I can chart that idea out, and then let's just say if I need some more music elements to it, I can get a musician on board to add to the record, right? So what happens is that then let's just say if I actually want to create this into a song, I want an artist, I want a vocalist on it. So then I get the artist, we put the record together, and we create a record, right? But if I'm commissioning that artist, or I won't even say commissioning, but let's just say if I'm attempting to collaborate with that artist, right? If I say, hey, if I reach out to an artist and say, hey, I have a record, and I just also for clarity, whenever I produce a record and I release it, like when our label releases the records or collaborations that aren't records that are owned by other artists, we release it through our rotating collective, Vince and the Valholla Empire. Vince and the Valholla Empire is one of two of our, well, actually, I would say it's our first rotating collective. We have another vehicle to release music via that we've released music in the past. Our label is also an artist technically on streaming services. So if you, just like Quality Control and other labels might have, like whenever they do compilations, they put it under their artist name. So Quality Control. So that's the same thing. Valholla is an artist. If you search it on Apple Music, Spotify, you'll see Valholla as an artist. We have collaborations that we've done. But when I personally produce a record that I kind of have from start to finish, it comes out as a collaboration through Vince of the Valholla Empire and whatever that artist is. So, for example, I have a record that we released through our rotating collective that I produced with a handful of crazy talented musicians, and it's called Forever. It's Vincent and Valhalla Empire with Adrian Lewis. Adrian Lewis is a super talented singer, songwriter, producer, and he was gracious enough, with the help of Curtis Richardson, to jump on this record. Curtis Richardson and Adrian wrote the record, and it was produced by myself, Track Burners, Vegas Fontaine, and also co-produced by Curtis and Adrian. So we released this record. This record is controlled by our label. What I mean by that is, when I say controlled, everybody that's involved with the record has a piece or stake in the record. Everyone gets publishing. Everyone gets points off the record. But the catch is that we get to control marketing, obviously in collaboration with our partners, to make sure that things are aligned with them, if that makes sense. But all in all, the final decisions are kind of run through our label. So this is a perfect example of what the label is the artist's vehicle looks like. Okay, so let's move on. So anyway, this creative director will most likely be a producer who collaborates with a range of artists. So the label and creative director will executive produce releases, which will include both singles and full-length albums. I'm going to read in and I'm going to explain to you how labels that want to survive are going to have to run. Because it's like, again, I've been doing this for a long time. A company is 19 years old to this week. Thankfully, I'm still here. We're still thriving. And because of what I know, I, as a label owner, don't have to sign another artist for the next few years to succeed, or to continue to succeed in this business as far as an independent label. All right, so let's kind of fast forward. So since these collaborations are led by the label and creative director, these releases can be marketed with limited participation of the featured collaborators. This means that after the collaborators record the song, they might not have to do anything marketing wise again for that song. If they don't want to, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they do, that's awesome. Like, we would love to have them, add to marketing efforts that we do, but they don't have to. They technically don't have to. The creative director, and in some cases the imprint, will be listed as an artist on the release. I explained that earlier. The results and benefits. The label will own a controlling share of master recordings, and in most scenarios controls the master recordings in perpetuity. All right. The label will create merchandise, products, and IP around releases, and the label can create live experiences around the releases. The label can create content, television shows, and movies around the releases and have full creative control, right? And when I say full creative control, obviously, again, if we have an artist that we collaborate with, we are able to collaborate with them. But let's just say if they say, hey, look, as long as this aligns with my brand, or whatever the case may be, if it's an instrumental, whatever the case may be, it really matters less. But if it's an artist that's actually featured on the track and there's going to be certain things that they don't want, that's fine. That's okay. Like, we're going to work around the artist, but the control of how the marketing goes is going to rely on the label. Just like if the artist signed a deal with us and they wanted to control how their marketing goes, they get to do that. You know what I mean? So this will result in less spoilage. The label can exploit songs that may be on the cutting room floor by repurposing the songs that are not initially released, by offering these complete or incomplete songs to other artists and labels, or for sync or to the DIY music community. In closing, the future where this model exists allows for labels to rely less on deals exclusively committing an artist to one label. A label will not have to fully rely on breaking individual artists with this model, instead focusing on songs that resonate with music listeners while maintaining multiple imprints and creative directors that release various genres of music. Other traditional business models can coincide with this model to increase the company's success and increase market share. So yeah. So basically, this model, I think, is going to be the future. That I think that if I was coming up and I had this game right now, like if I was starting a label right now and I had this game, I would work with an artist that I loved or I respected or that I was a fan of, and I would also do this model. I would do both, because it's like, if you're not relying on if an artist is going to be with you in, because there's a lot that you can't plan. Having a business, you have to have as less chance embedded into your business as possible. You have to have as much things that you can control as possible. Because if I have, let's say, perfect example, let's just say if you've signed a fair deal with two artists, you signed a fair deal with two artists, and let's just say those artists put, let's say, 2 albums out a year, conservatively, 2 albums out a year, some singles here and there, whatever the case may be. So let's just say they do 30 songs. They put out 30 songs a year, right? Together. Let's just say 60. Let's just say they put together 60 songs in a year, right? The situation you're in as a label owner is that you're kind of capped at what that artist can produce. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Like an artist shouldn't be forced to record, or put out a certain number of releases, right? A way to curb that is that the label has to commission releases. And that's what this model does. This basically gives the label an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? If I have 2 artists signed to us, I need to put out maybe triple the music that they're going to put out, because it's a good chance that because again, I'm saying this because if I have a fair deal with an artist, is either an equal split, so it's 50-50, or it's where the artist earns more than the label. That's fair, right? That's fair. I think every artist would agree that that's fair. So if we're going to play fair, a label needs an edge. It's a business, right? So basically we need to be able to control the output. So with that being said, the label as artist adds that extra controllable output flow of music. So yeah, so as you can see, like I said, label or imprint. So let's just say if I have a label and imprint, so a label can have multiple imprints. So let's just say if I sign 10 producers, and each of those producers are kind of assigned a genre or a list of genres that they can produce music in, and they, with the help of the label, set up these collaborations. So basically we find, so we'll go to Miami. I'm from Miami. So we go to Miami, we find some of the talented artists we can find, and we collaborate with those artists. These artists might not have ever released a project yet, but we work with them to create high quality, industry ready records. We put those records out as collaborations. This is going to help the artists, right? So as an artist, you're going to be able to work with a label that's going to be able to market a release, because a lot of the artists starting out don't have marketing budgets. So it's like, imagine you did a collaboration with a label, and it's a song you rock with, and you know that they're going to market it and promote that release, and guess what that's going to do? That's going to give more eyes to the artist that's coming up. You know what I'm saying? So I think this model is going to help a lot of independent artists that, let's just say there's one label in every major city doing this ethically. This is going to change everything. Like, it's going to change everything, because not only is going to be more music made and released. We hear all of the news stories about, there's 100,000 or however many songs uploaded a day or whatever the case may be, right? But most of that music isn't getting heard. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're in an attention economy now. So it's like, people are, if they're going to listen to your stuff, they need a reason to listen to it. They need to discover it, and they want to feel like they discovered it. So I think, again, more music doesn't scare me. More music coming out doesn't scare me. It's how are we going to get the music to the listener? And again, this model, another reason why this model is a winner is because labels can invest more time promoting a record than an artist might feel like they should, if that makes sense. So, for example, so we have a record called Forever that I talked about earlier. We are not going to stop promoting that record until it goes platinum in the US, right? We've been promoting this record for since October 2022. That's when the record came out. That's how long we've been promoting the record. And we've released 9 different versions of the song so far. If you count all of the instrumentals, it's more than that. But in total, there's 9 different versions of this song out right now. We released a EP of remixes like last year. Spotify featured it on Fresh Finds, featured one of the songs that was on one of the remixes on Fresh Finds. So with remixes, we get to continue to promote a single. If you release a song and then a remix to that song, both of those songs count as sales for the same song. I don't know if people knew that, but the RIA counts that as one song. So if you're talking about like how many sales a song has, you have to count the sales for every release from that particular variation of that song. So every release. So again, we get to, if I was working with another artist that had the control, they might be like, I don't want to release 40 plus remixes to my single. I couldn't do it in a traditional deal. In any kind of deal, I doubt there is probably 90% of artists would not be down to push a song this long. I've been, like I said, like I worked with a lot of artists, and I doubt most would. But again, like I said, this model allows the label to really do things that's unorthodox to really show success. And we're going to be able to market this song. So just in case if you also didn't know, I didn't mention this on this stream, but basically we're going to release more than 40 versions of Forever. We're going to promote this song for a very long time, and we're going to promote it until the entire world hears a version of this song. So meaning until everyone in this world statistically hears this song, that's how long we're going to be promoting this song. Let's take a look at this this chart. So okay, label, let's say a label, you hire a creative director, or it could be a producer, but they serve as a creative director for that particular imprint. So imprint is created. So let's just say if a brand new business is created for that particular creative director, let's just say they have full control, like, they can do, but of course, again, they have full creative control for that particular label, but the goal is the output. As long as it matches the vision, the creative director has control, but as long as it matches the vision of the company. All right. Obviously, that could be interchangeable depending on who the creative director is, right? So lead executive or producer. So basically, artist lead and lead vocalist or a songwriter. So let's just say you might work with a songwriter too that might have never released real records before, and they might not want to be in the videos, whatever the case may be. That's totally fine. You know, the record will be marketed without a lead artist per se within it. But again, you're gonna see ways on how we're gonna market using this model moving forward. But you can use your imagination. Producer and or musicians. So basically, together, these people, these teams, creative director, artists or lead vocalists, and other producers or musicians help create these songs. The label leads the creation of the front line releases. Creative director works on behalf of the label. So the creative director can do anything he wants on the side, but his job is to create music for the label. So a steady flow of music. So not an album a year, and it could be an album a year depending on the situation, but mostly the goal is to kind of create music at a high clip. You know what I'm saying? And another thing too, there's a lot of situations where an artist will record a song is great, but they don't really want to put it out because of whatever reason. This label is the artist model is gonna kind of ditch all that. Like the goal is to get the music out there. So obviously, with participation of the songwriter or the artist, we're gonna put out only thing the song has to be great, obviously, but once that song becomes great, it has to come out. Regardless of how it comes out, it has to come out. And we can do a minimum set of versions to it, depending on the situation. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a minimum of 10 versions of that particular song out there. So one song, one copyright, multiple versions, it becomes a sustainable model because not only I can control the output, but I also, as far as a label, I would also have control on how I market it, so I can start or slow depending on how the label feels. And if the label, in our situation, we don't currently have any artists signed to us. We have distribution deals currently that we have for a range of artists, but active distribution deals are very low as far as like active artists that are putting out music at the moment that we have deals with. But we don't have any artists signed to us on a traditional record deal, right? All right. So going back to this chart. So basically, with those three, this group of people creates the song or collection of songs. They might do an album. So I might link up with a singer, a rapper, and I might create a group. And the label sanctioned group, their goal is to create this album or whatever the case may be, and that group could be interchangeable. Like I said, the rotating collective is not just one person, it's a collection of people that switches out possibly every song, every album, whatever the case may be. So we plan on touring and all that. I guess I'll go into that, but basically the reason why this model works too is because the label gets to participate in not only the song, but publishing through the creative director. So basically what happens is that the publishing, the way that we ethically participate in publishing through the producer is that when the creative director does a deal with the label, they do a deal where, they participate in publishing. So they might have a publishing deal, whatever the case may be, but the label also gets a percentage depending on the situation, depending on the creative director. It could be 1%, it could be 5% of songs, or whatever the case may be, of whatever that producer gets, the label gets. This is flexible. This isn't all like, it doesn't have to be, but I think the model makes sense. If I'm a producer and I'm commissioned to make a list of songs, having a percentage of the publishing going to the commissioned label isn't weird or not ethical at all. I think it's highly ethical because of the situation. So basically publishing. So this is a way where everybody that's a part of the song gets publishing ethically, and the label also participates in a small part on the publishing. They participate on the master recording, obviously, because they're commissioning the song. Just like if it's an artist commissioning the song, and they own the master, same thing. Merchandise. Vince and the Valholla Empire merchandise, we would get paid. Whoever's in part of the song, let's just say if it's connected to a song, the artist gets paid. Same thing. Live events. If we do a Vince and the Valholla Empire, and I'm using these as examples because these are real world examples, because this is what we're doing right now. This isn't hypothetical. This model is what we're doing right now. We plan on touring later this year. And when I say touring, we're probably doing spot shows or whatever, shows here and there. But when I do a show, let's just say I've done records with about 10 artists. I've collaborated with 10 artists, Vincent the Valhalla Empire. I could do one show and have all of those 10 artists come. They perform, they get paid. Let's just say if there is something earned from that show, then the label gets a cut of it. And it's not weird. If it's done this way, it's not weird. It's not ethical, if that makes sense. Content. So we also plan on having a short film produced based on the concept of the song Forever. And we could literally create IP connected to the songs that in turn creates sync, that in turn sells the song all over again. It's a cycle, and we can do this again ethically, because if a label wants an artist to do something like this, you can't force an artist to kind of go through this if they're signed to you. They're gonna want control, and that's perfectly fine. But I think again, this model is supposed to be a situation where artists get the opportunity to control, right? They get the opportunity to control their output on their own, and the label gets to control their output. That's what this is. So if I create a movie, if I produce a short film, so this is the label producing a short film based off of the music that we produced. Let's just say if I shoot the film for $100,000. Give you an example. Or let's just say if I shot it for $2 million, whatever the case may be, right? And guess what? The music in the movie is, you guessed it, our music. So we just created a sync opportunity on our own, right? Every layer of it, the label gets a piece of, ethically. This is how you ethically do labels, independent labels, in the streaming era. This is how you're going to ethically do it. Because again, if you was watching earlier, I was talking about the other business model that we read about. That business model is great, but it's again dependent on the artist's mood, output, appetite to release music. How many times have we seen an artist say that they quit after their first album? How many times have we seen an artist stop making music after a certain period of time? Again, you could I could invest, and that's kind of why you see a label could sign 100 artists, right? 100 artists are signed to this particular label, And they expect a few of those artists, less than 10, to actually recoup, or I would say recoup. They expect those 10 or less to make the lion's share to compensate for losses that happens across the board for those 100 artists. That's something that an independent label can't do and can't afford. Most independent labels don't have millions of dollars to blow for artists to, potentially, for like to actually have like a list of artists that can potentially do well. And I think, again, this business model allows the labels to have more control on output, right? So in short, in closing, that's what this model does. Now,